All right, so welcome everyone. This is our first ever live interview for PBS DCS with the Coach of the Month. We've got Gabe Bauer. He's the Major League Strength and Conditioning coach for the Colorado Rockies. And I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, my name is Gabe Bauer. I am the Major League Strength and Conditioning coach for the Colorado Rockies. This upcoming season will be my second season in that position. Um, you know, my background, I guess, getting into that right away initially is I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Health and Wellness from University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. Uh, from there, I went on and did an internship at the University of Minnesota, working with Cal Dietz and Bob Rohde. And then from there, I went to St. Cloud State University and got my master's. Was a graduate assistant in the strength and conditioning department there, and from there, I got into baseball. So that's kind of a brief history of me. I'm sure we'll get into more detail as we go along.
Now, did you grow up in Wisconsin?
Yes,
Okay,
I
cool.
grew up. Yep, grew up in Wisconsin. Grew up in a town called Stevens Point,
Okay.
central Wisconsin, about an hour and a half north of Madison. So grew up there, went to high school there, played baseball and football in in Stevens Point at the high school, and then I decided to stay home for college.
So this is a perfect segue into kind of, I know that online, if you guys have read the online version of this, is that you had some sort of injury in college, you were playing, and that kind of led into how you got into strength and conditioning. Can you kind of talk us through that?
Yeah, so going to college, I was undecided. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I was going to play football. I wanted to play baseball, but I chose to play football first, and I got hurt my freshman year. Tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus. Had to have surgery. Yeah, I did a pretty good job on it. uh, Had to have surgery, and during the rehab process, I kind of fell in love with strength and conditioning, I guess. Not necessarily the rehab. It was more after the rehab, and trying to build up my strength is what I really fell in love with, and really became empathetic with the players that were coming off surgeries or had other injuries and wanted to help them.
Right.
So
I think that we all kind of, well, not all of us, but if you were a college athlete, I mean, I think that that kind of just leads you into, a lot of times anyway, leads you into career. And I know it did for me and a lot of strength coaches that were college athletes. Same story as that, we really just took to the weight room in some way, shape, or form, and that ended up turning into a career for us. So
yeah.
obviously it did for you too. So take us through your path to baseball, leading up to baseball.
So my path to baseball, I mean, really, when I was in grad school, I didn't know where I was going with my degree. I have a master's of sports management.
Me too.
So I was trying to get kind of all aspects. So I had the strength and conditioning background, the wellness, but I also wanted to get the management side of things
Hmm.
because I didn't know, if I wanted to. I knew I wanted to be in sports, but I didn't know if I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach or if I wanted to be, front office type or some sort of athletic director or sports manager.
Okay, I have a
Uh,
question. Now,
huh?
because I have my master's in sports management as well, and can you just touch on like being a major league strength coach and being in a coordinator role? How has that helped you?
Immensely. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with it. Being a coordinator for well, prior to last year, it was 6 years in the Rockies minor league system. Just managing all of our staff, managing our players, making sure that were being run correctly, and taking a step back and looking at things from you know a lot larger perspective. Um, Having background in sports management really helped quite a bit.
Totally. Okay, continue on with your path to baseball.
So, sports management in grad school. I was finishing up. I was in my last year of grad school, Honestly, just visited the NSCR job site and looked. I've always loved baseball. Like I played baseball since I was, 6 years old, t-ball,
Hmm.
um, all the way up. And it's the sport that I'm most interested in. So I saw a job posting for an internship with the Colorado Rockies. This was back in '07, and I applied. And this was actually in February. So like this time in
Wow.
'07, I applied, and just happened to, Brian Jordan contacted me, and we talked, and he offered me the position, and I jumped at it. So went down to Tucson, Arizona. We had our spring training in Tucson at that time at High Corbett Field, which was definitely not as pleasant as the facility that we're in right now.
For anyone who
Uh,
doesn't know, just I mean the Rockies have this phenomenal spring training facility in Phoenix. Great venue for the fans. Like it is really just incredible, and the facilities are just they're really top notch. I mean, a lot of those facilities in Phoenix are obviously top notch, but my personal favorite is the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. Correct?
yeah,
Okay,
Diamondbacks is
Salt
well, we
River,
share the
right?
facility. Salt River Fields, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely spoiled. And going from High Corbett to where we're at right now is like night and day.
Yeah.
So we honestly, up until we moved all of our strength equipment from the Coors Field weight room, threw it on a semi, and shipped it down to Tucson, Arizona for spring training.
That was so fun, right?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Great
It was
workout.
great.
Great
Yeah,
workout.
for sure, for sure. And we set up our weight room in an outdoor like party tent. We call it the party tent, but it's like one of those outdoor pavilions that you see at a park that has cement flooring and it's just a roof.
Yes.
So so we threw all of our equipment in there, made sort of a makeshift weight room, put up plastic around the outside, pumped in heating via propane. It was interesting. So thankfully we're out of there, but my time down in Tucson was great. You know, just going through that experience, I think made me a better coach and a better manager. The 2 years that I was down there, 2 or 3 years I was down there, but I think you go through things that you know lead up to making you the coach that you are, and all these different experiences that you encounter throughout your career makes you a better coach, better
Totally.
teacher.
Yeah, you have to learn how to do a lot with a little, and
Yes.
you definitely have to go through an experience where you have nothing and you have terrible facilities, and then when you get to a place like you're at now, you're like, oh, I have no excuse anymore for anything, and neither do the players either. The
Right.
players could say, oh, we didn't have a good facility, or I didn't like Tucson, or whatever it is, because you do hear that, but now there's no
Yeah.
excuse. You have everything at your fingertips.
Right. I mean, you still hear the excuses, from the players that didn't get to experience the high Corbett or the Tucson stuff. But you kind of put it in perspective for them, and
Do you have a picture of that? Wait,
for
you
their
should
summer.
just like post a giant picture of the party tent, like in
Yeah.
your weight room. Be like, stop complaining. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look, but we might have a picture laying around somewhere.
Okay, so
Might have to
you're
make it
kind
in.
of. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Might have to make it into a big mural in the weight room.
Yes. Okay, so you're kind of giving us like a little bit of the trials and tribulations that go on in baseball that are still kind of present. I mean, they're definitely present in some ways, but give us your favorite thing about being in professional baseball and why you love your job with the Rockies.
Honestly, my favorite thing is more when I was coordinator, but it still is watching our athletes succeed. When we work with them, we work on their areas of improvement, and we make them better, and it's noticeable on the field, and they feel good on the field playing their sport. There's no better feeling for me. And when those players have success, going to the playoffs, winning championships, and things like that, there's no better feeling for me. Along with that, it's baseball. I mean, I love baseball. Like I say, I grew up playing baseball, and I don't count this as a job. I count this as a passion. I go into work, and it's not I punch the clock. I come in, got my punch card, and I punch out. No, I'm there. I'm there to get my job done. I love it. I love working with all the players, all the different personalities, and my staff, which is amazing. We've come a long way. It's great. Don't count
Yeah,
it as a job.
you really, if baseball gives you one thing, it gives you exposure to a million different cities, cultures, people. I mean, just everything it really does. And even I
Yep.
think more so than collegiate athletics with the international aspect
Hmm.
of it. I mean, it really is a unique setting. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. Okay, so transitioning just a little bit, I know barely anything about what you guys do with the Rockies with data collection and using the force plates. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I mean, we use force plates. Uh, we do a couple of tests on the force plate. Our main test is just a vertical jump off the force plate, measuring ground force reactions. From those force reactions, both the eccentric and the concentric portion of the vertical jump, we're able to kind of figure out, one somewhat strength, and also the main thing that we get out of it are the movement patterns. Um, so based off of that information and other information that we collect, we prescribe a program to the player, and that player, continuously throughout the off season and season, no matter what, they're working on their specific areas of improvement, which shift. Um, so they're getting, kind of all aspects of our programming throughout both the off season and in season. But yeah, that's the basic roundabout of our programming.
Now, you mentioned online on baseballstrength.org in your interview there that part of your part of your philosophy or part of what you believe as a strength and conditioning coach is data collection. And
Hmm.
I didn't know this about you. I might have missed it. That you worked with Cal Dietz at some point. Do you feel
Yes.
like, do you feel like that shaped you in that way? Do you feel like that brought light to it? That you were working with a guy like Cal, who's obviously also involved in a lot of data collection and research.
Yeah, I mean, I was with Cal for a pretty brief period of time. I mean, my 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 work with him was probably, I would say, like, 2 or 3 months. So I didn't get a full picture of Cal, the person, and him collecting data and his way of training. I just got little snapshots.
Hmm.
So so yeah, I mean, I know that he is very data driven. I know that he has his triphasic training, his book that's out, and um, there's a lot of truths to his programming, and it's he's a great coach, and it was a great person to learn from. Um, so I took a little bit from him, but I wouldn't say that that's what kind of shaped my philosophy. I would say getting into baseball and seeing multiple sides of programming in baseball, and trying to figure out, taking pieces from other people around not only baseball but outside of baseball. I think that's what's really shaped our philosophy, the Rockies' philosophy on strength and conditioning.
So, kind of then transitioning again. So now that you like, part of your philosophy is data collection. For coaches
Mhm.
out there who might be listening or watching and don't really have force plates available to them at the high school level or
Yeah.
even at the college level, what's one
Hmm.
of the things that you would recommend? One or two things that you would recommend to collect, and then how to use it and why it's important.
That's tough. You never want to put your athletes at risk when you're testing. Um, I would venture to say that maybe some sort of 10-yard sprint test would be good. Some FMS testing, although it is somewhat subjective based on the coach. Um, it would be a good way to go. Um,
So
but
basically, achieving like what you were just
it's
saying with the force plates, you guys are looking at, obviously their vertical jump, and then you're also looking at movement patterns, and so
mhm.
achieving that just in different ways without a force plate. Because I mean, who really has a
I mean,
force plate
that's
available to them at
right,
all times?
right.
So
It's
really just
it's
achieving
a
those things without the
it,
technology.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a tough thing to do. I mean, that would take some time sitting down and trying to figure out what the best process possible would be. Um, like you said, I mean, force. Nobody has. I mean, not many people have force plates available to to their disposal to test and gain that data. We're fortunate in that way, but I think, like you say, if there's a way to kind of, with the movement patterns and also the strength that you're getting from the ground force reaction, if there's something to measure, a tool to measure, maybe a vertec or something that you could use. I guess that would be the way to go about it. Yeah.
So really, just a measure of explosiveness and a measure of movement, as basic as it gets, as basic
Yeah.
as it gets.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with our programming and our testing is, we try not to overload ourselves with data. We pick what's most important, and that's what we go off of, because we found in the past we've done a number of tests and run through a number of tests, and a lot of the information we don't even use. We collect it, we don't use it. So, why collect it? Why waste the time collecting it? So we just narrowed it down to, hey, we're going to use these force plates, and we feel like that's the best for our athletes, best method of testing for our athletes, and that's what we're going to do.
Great. Okay, one more question, and I've been getting this a lot lately for some reason, in-season lifting. So from my perspective, and I guess I didn't introduce myself, which is important, but my name is Rachel Balkovec. I'm the Latin American Strength and Conditioning Coordinator for the Houston Astros. And so for us in professional baseball, we can't just not work out in season. It just blows my mind that that's even a question of, okay, some guys are starting now, basically, beginning of February, and if you're at the major league level, hopefully you're ending at the end of October. But even at the minor league level, you're ending at the end of August. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8 months with just, don't work out, don't lift in season. It makes absolutely no sense. You're going to lose everything you have in the off season. So
Right.
can you kind of speak to if there's like high school coaches out there listening who maybe want a little bit of advice for volume, frequency, for in-season training, and what your recommendations are?
Yeah, definitely. Our in-season programming is multi-joint strength movement paired with a mobility movement, and we usually use banded like hip mobs or ankle mobs or something like that, to that effect. And we keep the weight somewhat heavy, and we keep the reps and sets somewhat low. So it all depends. As you're going throughout the season, it's different. I mean, high school baseball season is way different than professional baseball. I mean, professional, you have back-to-back games for, however long, 162 games and 100, 180 days. It's ridiculous. Plus, you add in all the travel and stuff like that. It's crazy. But, honestly, I think for high school, college, it's realistic to train specifically to a program that's set up, when you can set a schedule is basically what I'm saying. Whereas in baseball, it's a lot, or professional baseball, it's a lot harder because you have other things going on. But the way we do it is we don't shy away from weight, and we'll just decrease the amount of repetitions as well.
I think that's important to touch on a little bit too, is because I think there's a common misconception out there. Okay, it's in season, lightweight, high reps, and really you're trying to avoid extra volume. So it's really
100%.
it's about efficiency. You can accomplish the same thing if you're gonna do 5 sets of 10 with super low weight. Why don't you just cut it down, cut to the chase, just get right in there,
get right in
out.
there, get your weight, get that muscle stimulation, and get out.
Yep.
And the other thing that really helps us, and it's been a process for the last 2-3 years in our organization, is we have developed some great coaches. And that's key. If you're going to go heavyweight, you're going to need a good coach in there that's going to not afraid to correct form and say, hey, I don't know, Nolan Arenado, hey, we have to do our squat this way, or our deadlift. This is not how we do our deadlift. Your back is rounded. What are you doing? Okay, you're going to hurt yourself. So we need guys that aren't going to shy away from that, and we do. And, we've come a long way, and we've had some success within the last 3 years with that. And it's a major credit to the staff that we have.
That's also another really good point, is that I could give all the recommendations in the world about what lifts you should do, but there's this huge looming if you have a good coach to teach it. If you don't know what you're doing, then you could end up hurting yourself, and then that's how squats get a bad rap, and or lifting in general gets a bad rap. Oh, I got hurt lifting. Well, nobody was watching you and you didn't know what you're doing. So you just hit on a really important point that obviously you're only as good as your coaches.
Yes,
So
100%. Yep.
okay, so we've kind of touched on the tips for the coaches. What about tips for strength and conditioning coaches who want to get into professional baseball
Be patient.
or any realm of strength and conditioning?
Be patient and know that you're not going to get paid a lot of money right away. I mean, honestly, don't come in expecting you're going to get like a $40,000 a year job at the minor league level. I mean, it's going to take some time. You got to put in your hours. Usually, the way it is now, it's getting a lot better. There are more full-time positions offered if there are any out there. But typically, a young coach is going to come in on an internship basis, and then or a part-time basis, seasonal basis. And then once that season is over with, then potentially, if there's movement within the organization, you become a full-time coach with an organization. But honestly, be patient and be vocal, be attentive, be open-minded. You can't come into an organization and think that your 2 years or 3 years at a college is the way to train baseball athletes. Because there are a lot of things that go into training baseball athletes at the professional level, as you know, Rachel. And honestly, I think that's it. I think I hit on all of them.
That's making me laugh because, well, first of all, two things. I feel like I'm going to ask this question to every coach, and they're all going to say the same thing. Like, just be patient, pay your dues, work your ass off. Like, just,
Yep.
you have to grind a little bit, and don't be afraid of that. Somebody was just messaging me the other day asking, they're getting done with their graduate assistantship, and they were saying, oh, I want to get a paid job. And I was like, psh. I did 4 internships after my graduate assistantship, and that was after that I worked for the Cardinals for the first time. And it's just like you can't worry about any of that, and it's not this thing where you're gonna go here and then here and then here and then you might go here and then take a few steps back and then go forward and then go back, and then before you know it, you're taking all these little baby steps, and then all of a sudden you skyrocket and you get that job that you want. But it's not always like a straight path to the top. So that was really great. I forgot the second thing I was going to say, so let's not worry about it. Let's just move on.
Okay.
If you have any follow-up questions for Gabe, where can they find you?
You can email me at gabe.bauer@rockies.com. That would probably be the best way, since spring training is right around the corner, and I won't be available to answer many phone calls, so just email me.
Okay, so I want to put a little disclaimer on that too. For those of you guys who don't know, spring training is just absolutely ridiculous, and he is going to be so busy if he's not already. I mean, I know that I spent 12 hours at the complex today myself, so if he's not already busy, he's going to be so busy. So if you do contact him, give at least 2 years for him to get back to you. Don't worry about it. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on. And if you guys have any questions, make sure to reach out. And also, if you have any questions, you can reference PBSCCS website, which is baseballstrength.org. See y'all soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel.